Jason.
Hi, Jason. Nicole.
Nicole, nice to meet you, ma'am.
Hello. Olivia.
Olivia. Jason.
Hi,
Sir.
Jason. Anthony.
Anthony. I'm Jason Zahn. I'm Chief Standing Bear's Chief of Staff.
Oh, nice.
I just wanted to come welcome you real quick. He's finishing something up and he should be in here in just a few minutes.
Thanks a lot.
And you're from?
I'm from Oklahoma City. We've
Oklahoma
worked
City.
together, and worked
Okay.
in conservation districts for a while.
And he said someone's from Australia?
We're from Australia.
We're from Australia.
Yeah.
From Australia. What part in Australia?
Perth, the west side.
Perth. Okay, west side. I've been to Brisbane
Oh, there you go.
twice.
I grew up.
Olivia grew up there.
Yeah. I went there once with the Marines. We were up in Shoalwater Bay training area
Oh, yeah.
in the bush.
Uh-huh.
Not the greatest, so I was intense, but I was also in the U.S. Ronald Reagan. We pulled into Brisbane for 4 days. So it was really nice.
There you
I
go.
enjoyed it. Very nice people. Very polite people.
Well, right back at you. This has been our experience in the States.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He's coming down the hallway.
Excellent. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you
Cheers,
very
mate.
much.
You too.
Yeah, appreciate it.
As introduced last week, we're about to meet Chief Standing Bear of the Osage Nation. The family and I made our way with friend and filmmaker Nicole Ragland to Osage HQ in Pawhuska, Oklahoma. How the Osage survived being marched to these lands by the US government in the 19th century and ongoing brutality in the 20th is a scene set in last week's episode. If you're not familiar with that backstory, it's worth ducking back to listen to that brief 13-minute episode first. We pick up the Osage story in the 21st century, where they're mapping a masterful resurgence, including the rare reclamation of land, the powerful realisation of food sovereignty, the innovative return of language, and so much more. G'day, Anthony James here for The Regeneration, your independent listener-supported podcast, exploring how people are regenerating the systems and stories we live by. Enormous thanks this week to Phil Garozzo from the Loot Growers crew back home in Oz for doubling your subscription amount, and in such fraught times for farmers too. Phil messaged to say, no matter how tough times are, I can always find a few dollars a month for what you bring. Mate, I want to say to you, that powers me on big time. Same to all you paid subscribers for your support, especially in these times. If you can too, please consider joining Phil and this brilliant community supporting listeners, get additional stuff if you like, and help keep the show going. Just follow the links in the show notes. Thank you. As mentioned in the introductory episode last week, some of you might recognise the Osage Nation from the recent Martin Scorsese film, Killers of the Flower Moon. The Chief's early reference to their extraordinary Academy Awards appearance relates to that. Okay, let's meet Chief Standing Bear, sharing a couch for a fascinating, frank, and generous insight into the Osage Nation, his role, and their resurgence.
Hi, whoa, very good. Hi, Jeff Standing Bear.
Chief, it's an honour. Anthony James.
Hi, Anthony.
Hello, Olivia.
Olivia.
Yeshi.
Yeshi.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, good man.
Well, good to see you.
All right.
Very good.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you. You got a
Yeah.
big camera too.
Well, yeah, of course.
We'll have a chair here, folks. And
Yeah.
You.
how you like our drum, Yeshi? That's a buffalo. That's a buffalo hide,
Wow.
and an Osage made that for us. Yeah, hit it. Go ahead and hit
There
it.
you go.
Harder. You got to hit it hard, really hard with your fist.
I was hoping you would say
Now you're talking. So they sing. They all get in a circle and they use big, sticks with. It has buckskin around it, and it's you hit it and they sing songs. And go on YouTube and look at the Osage Academy Award singers. That's Osages. They were nominated for an Academy Award, and you'll see them singing. And it's not this drum. It was another drum like it.
Huh.
So anyway, you're.
I'm a drummer too, so I'm all turned on by this.
Well, there you go. You like Ginger Baker?
Yeah.
A band called The Cream.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the
Outstanding.
best.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what brings you to the USA?
Oh, we're fascinated by how there's so many stories we are finding. And back home in Australia, this is true too, right? This is where the podcast started. But across the States, it's true too that there's so many stories that don't make the news, at least not often, of regeneration, essentially, of one kind or another, whether it be landscape, whether it be cultural. And that's how we met, Nicole and I, and that's how essentially you and I have ended up meeting, because I've learned more about the Osage Nation as we neared your country. and some of the great work you're up to. And essentially with a passion for sharing those stories to show people there are ways that we can manage.
Well,
these
we have a lot
times.
to learn about Australia too, because when I was working in Arkansas, the state of Arkansas, with a museum called the Momentary, which is related to the Crystal Bridges, funded by the Walton family. They had time to open the Momentary with some ceremonies, and so they asked me to bring a ceremonial Osage who could bless them and bless the grounds. And we got there, and they had also invited some folks from Australia, Aborigine. And so we did the ceremony, and also the Aborigines did the ceremony. And it was fascinating that our people, the Osage and others here, use cedar as one of the elements, and they burn that cedar. There's other things they can do and other things they burn, but in this particular ceremony they use cedar. And they use an eagle wing to bless members of the family as they came through, and other people. But the Aborigines were doing the same thing, except they weren't using cedar, they were using another plant. And they also were blessing the same way. So our people were here, and the Aborigines were here, and the people were coming through. And so I was like, wow, that was very similar. And the prayer the state that was involved was very similar when you translated it. The best I understood them translating it to us. And then we got to spend some time with them away from the big crowds. And I said, well, tell me something about your people. How many of them? How many of you are there? Where do you live? And what I learned is how naive I was, and how naive others must be here, because I did not know Aborigine is just a term like you would say Native American. I thought Aborigine was a tribe, and it turns out, as you all know very well, that there are so many tribes, and their languages are different, and their customs, although they have come from a common area, common source, they've matured in different ways, just like us. And we had a great conversation, more than one, went to dinner, and I learned how similar they are. They even had reservations, and they had boarding schools where their children were taken and told not to speak the language, not to do your customs, and exactly like us. And that's the next day we kept talking about this, and I said, this has got to be like the British playbook.
Exactly.
That was my comment. And you can see a lot of these same practices from the United States government at the time, and very recently, in fact, and what I was being told about the Aborigine people. They were so similar, the same practices, the same methods to attempt to, they called it assimilation here, and I didn't ask what they called it there.
Australia too, yeah.
And if you don't assimilate, then what happens? Well, it's not a pretty story, and we don't like to dwell on the negative. There's plenty of that to dwell on.
That's really interesting to hear that.
Well, Americans need to know that the Aborigine people of Australia are indigenous people, are tribal people, and they think like we do. I saw it.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah. I wonder, even just hearing you say that There's plenty of the negative and you don't dwell there too long. What vision do you carry that animates your work, and how do you keep your spirit healthy through that?
I was just talking before I came in here with the person who runs our child care programs. We're part of it, and talking about their plans for the coming year to consolidate funds for other services, and how is all that sorted out. And it's complicated. She and her team are working on budgets, working on policy, interaction with the federal United States government on funding, about the concerns that they all had about whether that funding is going to be reliable, given the current political situation. Just one group of funds we're talking about, which they are concerned about, is $3.6 million, which for a small tribe like us is a lot of money. And there's other funds, and that group is about $10 million in funding, and they are working together, working hard, and have been for months. And I was getting updated because that's the time to do this today. And I told her, I said, this is part of the job as a chief, where people think I do this stuff. When I don't, I say we should go do this stuff, and then you all get together and decide what parts of this would be beneficial to our people, and then you work months and months and year in and year out to build things further than I had even imagined. And it's not my vision, it's my suggestions, and those that are smart suggestions have to come at the right time, at the right place. And I try to be very aware of the circumstances and the timing where we are, because you don't want to send people down a path of frustration and not getting things done. So I have a lot of internal tests that I use. Can the project be done within a time period that we can all get behind? Because our history is one of disappointment and appreciation of the small blessings that we get that are really, turns out to be huge blessings. Just to be able to recognize that is a skill that I don't have alone. We fortunately have traditional people who can tell us, we have this ceremony, we have this belief, we have this. And so I guess what I'm telling you is we rely on each other, we encourage each other. My name just happens to be there as chief, but I can guarantee I can talk all day about how it's not me. It's not me. It's because if I take the wrong path, the people know they can talk to me and say, I think we're on the wrong path. And I've got to decide whether that's correct or not, and engage in debate at times, especially when it comes to the children, about our language programs, about you say tomato, they say tomato. If you guys can't figure it out together, I'll decide it, even though you're both better speakers than me. So I got to do things like that, which doesn't make me real popular, but you got to keep moving. So a friend of mine went out to the harvest land. He's a retired lawyer, and the harvest land is where our greenhouses are and others. He saw those, and he said, "Chief, this is a remarkable vision." Well, I told him later that this all explained myself when I said, David, it wasn't a vision, it was panic. And he looked at me and I said, you got to understand, during the COVID pandemic, there were some federal funds available, and this is really the contradiction for being a Native American government. On one hand, we don't want to have the United States government in our business. But on the other hand, if money comes our way with all the strings that are attached, we will decide to whether or not to grab it. And often we grab it because it's good for our people. So how do you reconcile that contradiction? That's a lot of what I do. But during COVID, some funds came down because the economic impact was strong. And so we had to decide what to do with these funds. And some tribes decided to put them in checks and send them to people. And that's not working for us. That doesn't build our community. That doesn't protect us at home. I know half our people are moved off to other states over the decades for a lot of reasons. So we decided, and you can say under my leadership, because it was true, to try to be self-sufficient, because this pandemic will occur again. It's been going on for human history. The plague of Justinian, the Great Plague, the 1918 flu pandemic, or whatever, and there will be more. So how do we insulate ourselves from that disruption and those fears, and where there's no meat, there's no food, which is what happened? We try to be self-sufficient. So we directed those funds and matched what we could with our own funds from our small casinos and all, and put it together, the harvest land, which is greenhouses, and we grow our own food, we have food processing. And
processing as well.
And a meat process, food. Yeah, we have food processing out there. We also have 25 miles from here, a meat butcher house, a meat processing plant, where we can do 75 or so head of cattle or bison a month, and then we have a herd of bison, about 300 some. That fluctuates, of course, as they go into the herd. And with all our different entities, our departments, and our small economic development arm, about 2,000 at least. Well, see, they sell things, but sometimes 2,000 head of cattle. And so that's progress. So I told David, the reason we got it done from day one and completion of the butcher house in 19 months and get all the United States Department of Agriculture permits and all that stuff, and then work with the greenhouses that we did was not so much a vision, it was panic, because we had no meat, no food, and when you're feeding children at lunch here in our programs and elders, and there's no food, and you're the head of this, you got to do something.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about food.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we're really short. It's reliable, clean water. Of course, it's real third world here. Regularly out of water, sometime for a week or two. That's ridiculous. And we're getting internet now for the first time, broadband for the first time. That's big, but some of this that's going on in Washington, D.C. is making us anxious because we are living this contradiction. The federal government provides the funds, but that's federal money and there's conditions upon it. When you get into that, you've got to assume those risks. But once people get involved in it, they have a tendency to relax, and on various levels. And if you get out there to talk to our director, Secretary of Development, or Secretary of Natural Resources, Jan Heyman, she'll tell you, I have been saying, again, this is not a vision. To me, this is showing a necessity that what you would see out there really needs to be treated as a pilot project. There's no debt on it. We're doing our best. They are to sustain itself. by doing farmers markets, making relationships with, which they have to do with restaurants, etc. But they've got to start being more self-sustaining. And I've told them, we didn't have anything like this before, and now our people know we're here. We have 26,000 members. Our people are scattered, only about 4,000 or 5,000 here. But should there be another pandemic, I tell the people in those areas, and now our people know about that now. I'm just trying to do off-the-cuff mathematics, which I'm not good at, but trying to figure out what would be the demand. And if I'm in Osage in Oklahoma City, 2 hours away from here, and I have a non-native Osage wife and non-Osage children, and there's, again, no food in the grocery stores, well, what I'm going to do is say, hey, don't worry, everybody, our Osage tribe, my Osage tribe, and you kids' Osage tribe, we're all going to go up to the Osage, and we'll get boxes of meat, which we can do, and we'll get whatever vegetables and fruits they have going on, which we do, and we'll be okay. But I'm telling my people, do you realize that I've already counted how many people would come? And that could be over 5,000 people lining up. Are you ready for that? Answer is no. Well, that's why we've got to get out of this complacency where, okay, we've done this great stuff, but we can't handle the demand, and the other communities around us don't do this as they should.
Yeah.
So how do you motivate people to do what I think is a great program and emulate it and expand it in some order to feed ourselves and have healthy food? How do you do that? And I'm not doing it, and we are not doing it. Here's where we get to share the blame. Now, everybody gets the credit. We are not doing it.
Oh my God. First rule of
There's the
film
filmmaker. Yeah.
And that's good. That's a good place to stop.
There we go.
That was a good thought. I'm so sorry.
I'm not much, I do way too much thinking anyway, but I really think the proof's in the pudding, right? You got to make things happen,
Yeah.
and
And it sounds like that is what's
that's what happens.
happening.
Yeah, that's what happens. You
And
got to
it-
make things happen. And
I'm so curious how that method of leadership, if you like, has also resulted in this extraordinary reacquisition of Osage lands.
oh, we got lands, yeah, we've done all that. We've got some small casino. We have one large, well, it's not even large, casino in Tulsa, but we have, we've just built, we have 7 now, small casinos. Till just 5 years ago, one of them was a double-wide trailer here in our capital. So we've expanded, from a double-wide trailer to a restaurant and some gaming machines and a hotel here that's got like 33 rooms, I believe. And then we have a larger one further away that's got 100 rooms. So these are not gigantic, but it fits our ability to pay for everything and have the money for our educational programs or health programs. We basically tax, like all tribes, we tax our gaming facilities at 100%.
Right.
Yeah, and so what we do with these funds, and in our agreement with the United States and somewhat to the state of Oklahoma, we commit this to the people through health programs. There's a new clinic being built, for example. If you go downtown here, you came in from the west, just keep going down through the east, just about 3 blocks, and you'll see the clinic we're going to open in July. Every Osage that can get involved in an education certified or accredited university or college, we can pay up to $14,000 a year in their tuition and books. We also have a career tech program where we will pay for that and also give them a small stipend monthly. Then we have Medicare supplements that we pay for our people if you have Medicare, which is a federal program for the elderly. And then we have burial assistance at $8,000 to help with the defray the cost of a funeral and burial. And those are the big three programs that we have. And after we fund those, we get into, oh, well, how do we match what's left over from our casinos with the federal monies or private funds that we seek and to put into our program budgets, like the Indian Child Welfare Act is a federal act that allows tribes, you get some federal money, but not much, but it allows the tribal nations, we've got to get away from tribes, tribal nations, because we are nations. We're political entities. And we've been here since before the states, you know?
Yeah.
So how do we take these funds and fund a program like Indian Child Welfare, where in 1978 and a little after that, the laws allows the tribes to intervene in a case where an Indian child is subject to removal from the home for whatever reason that the state says, so be it drugs, arrest, broken home, or usually they're all bad situations,
Yeah.
my experience.
Yeah.
But instead of having those children put up for adoption, which was the case prior to the 70s, 1/3, the record will tell you, of all Native American children were being put out for adoption. And so
yeah.
that's,
Australia too.
well,
going back to that.
law allows us to pick up, and this is mostly, in fact, I had a meeting earlier this morning about that. How do we increase funding and get more people and travel money to go to the different counties just in Oklahoma and tell the court, we're here under federal law and Oklahoma law now, we can provide a foster home, which is an extended family member. We can provide a report to the court, and we will work with the state social workers. We can do this with you, with everybody, for the benefit and the best interest of the child, as they say, and get those children in safe environments with the goal of reuniting the family.
Yeah.
And there's all these methodologies that apply to that crazy complex world of trying to rescue our children and our families for present and for tomorrow. And so, but that costs money, and we have to pay for that. So what we do is we take, after we do our, this is just Osage, other tribes do it differently. After we pay for our scholarship programs, after we pay for our health card, everybody gets a $500 to be increased later health card. Our elders have a Medicare supplement. How do we take care of that? That's one program. Burial assistance. All those things cost millions of dollars. So after we do that, what's left over from the gaming operations, we use that to match federal and private funds. And so there's the amount of money. Now what's our budgets? What do our budgets look like? What's the request going to be now to my legislature, 12 people? What are they going to appropriate from these funds to satisfy that budget, which means at my level here, we got to cut that budget before it's submitted quite a bit often, because people say, well, in order to do what we need to do, it needs to be this or that. And I have to make the call that it's not going to be this or that. It's going to be much smaller.
Yeah.
And and so people have emotions about that, and that's normal. But you got to be able to withstand that criticism and say, for the greater good of our people, this is what I determine if you can't handle it, you have to elect somebody else.
Yeah.
So that's I think I just summed up the entire being what I do. It's the minuscule to the big picture stuff, both. And
Yeah.
you got to have good people.
Yeah.
And you got to let room for art and music, dance. We're really big on that. You got to have that, or it's all mundane and it's all sterile. You gotta say, okay, well, some of this money that's left over, we gotta commit to the puppet show, or on their own, our people get these giant puppets. They're more than life size, and they get in like the Chinese puppet things, and they get in and they tell our creation story and other stories. Or our dance maker, where we have actual classical ballet school that's a private school here in town, and we fund it through donations, and or whatever. Our museum, we have a museum we want to expand, but one thing I've learned is you've got to have that ability to express yourself in artistic form, even video,
Yeah.
or it's just we're just here, and that's not. It's great to be here. It's great to have survived, but we got to express ourselves. Yeah, that's the big deal to me right now. Is how do we do that in a way that continues things that makes people happy? Because, damn it, there's too much depression.
Yeah.
There's too much negativity, and it's contagious.
Yeah.
Just art can destroy that and rebuild the world, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah.
You believe that?
I really believe it. Of course, my dad was an artist. And I used to sit there while he painted. He was an oil painter, and he died very young. To me, he's 44, so I can still smell the paints.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
But and then I just it's just what you're exposed to. So my brother and I were exposed to fencing, where we use the Italian foil or the French foil or the saber, and we did that as 14, 15-year-olds, and because I was raised in Tulsa, and they had these opportunities. But here, what we're trying to do is recreate best we can. And we can't really just transplant communities and say, well, here it is. You got to be patient. You got to let people develop their own way. And then one thing our people have done, next to that new clinic, you'll see an outdoor health trail with exercise machines all the way through. And it's rather large, over a mile, and in walking areas. And you'll see all the outdoor health equipment, and then we have pickleball courts and basketball courts, and we just did this last year.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
and so people are participating, not just native or Osages, but our community, and so we found little places where we can change the activities, get healthier. I didn't do that. That was a group of Osages that said, let's go do that. They came up here, Chief, we want to do this. I will back it 100%. That's a lot of what I do.
Yeah. I hear you. It's a refrain I hear often through the podcast, actually, with people in leadership positions where things are sprouting. And I really cottoned onto your words before, at the start, where you said beyond what you could even envision.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, if you create the conditions. I'm curious.
That's right.
There's so much. There's so much happening at the same time as a result of that process. And I'm curious when you talk about the paradoxical role that you play as chief in terms of dealing with the United States political structures. And
we don't have an Air Force, so you always have
There
to
we go.
remember that. That helps when you time for these little decisions. You have to say, well, we got to do this, do that, and then you have to remind yourself of your limitations.
I think about the big land acquisition that you put into trust.
Oh, yeah, you've read about that.
Yeah. and you put it into trust with the United States government.
Yes.
Because that...
Perfect example.
Yeah, exactly.
The reason we put it into the title where it says United States of America in trust for the Osage Nation, because under federal law in this country, you have to fall into the treaty relationship and the federal relationship to not be subject to state taxation, state regulation, state control.
Right.
And so even though you're under the federal system, we are used to that. We understand that. And the states historically have been much more hostile than the federal relations. They both have their problems. Our sovereignty, as they say, and I try to teach my people here at this staff level, sovereignty is something that all governments have and all people have, but how it manifests itself is what we struggle with and what we believe in. And for us, well, it turned out to be expressed with the 43,000 acres in trust. It turns out to be manifest itself with our language programs for our children. It manifests itself in our existing and our strength of our culture. But it is, I guess, theoretically, and this is the Western world training I've had. I was a lawyer for many years, and I did a lot of work for a lot of tribes. I look at it, and as some others have said better than me, that sovereignty consists of a internal sovereignty and an external sovereignty. And one thing I'm working on this morning is the relationship between the state and us as Osage and other tribes on taxation of tobacco products and able to issue our own license tags and use of the state turnpike system. All have their own differences and similarities. And on the turnpike, for example, our people are using it without a pike pass, they call it. And the Turnpike Authority is an instrumentality of the state. They want their money. And so we have said, well, it's true, our people use that. Let's work out an agreement. And they said, okay, well, here's an agreement. And we said, our lawyers come back and say, well, here's a modified from that. This is different. And I got involved, and I go, why are you all talking in your agreements about sovereignty? This is nothing about sovereignty. This is a business deal. Can't you give us a fleet rate? Can't we start looking at it? Because anytime you throw sovereignty out there, and you only see this in the external relations with the, be it the state, other tribes, counties, cities, federal government. When you start throwing sovereignty in there, that's dangerous. Because once sovereignty is tied up in an event that doesn't have to be qualified as a sovereign event. It could be a business transaction, like just give us a fleet rate, like we were a trucking company, and then let's negotiate the arrearage, but let's find out how did you determine that arrearage, and so that's where we are on that issue. The smoke shops. And our individual smoke shop owners, et cetera, that's got its own world. And then we have the license tag general issue, and that's those are all where the state and the nation have to act as sovereigns and have to determine how much of that external sovereignty will we concede, how much will you concede, in order to enforce an agreement with each other, and for how long. And it's dangerous. If you're not careful and you end up in court, the court can be hostile. And we have experienced that where some of the tribes in Oklahoma, they have large re-recognized, reaffirmed reservations in legal theory and on paper, and now they have to supply the law enforcement, and they're getting deeper and deeper into that. The Osage had a case in the year 2010 where they put that sovereignty out there and lost. So our reservation and where our jurisdiction, our authority to govern occurs is extremely limited within these lands. Where we're sitting now is federal land in trust for the Osage Nation, and it has been since this spot here was 1906, and prior to that it's 1872 when we finally were removed into Oklahoma from our previous journeys, survivors of war. So you just got to understand these elements and how they behave, and nobody can do it alone. You've got to count on divine intervention a lot.
Really?
Yeah. This is like, yeah. I mean, you can't figure this stuff out. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
But you got to recognize certain commonality in concept and conversation to even get to an agreement like, rudimentary. We agreed as a table,
Yeah.
right? Well, where'd that come from?
Exactly.
But I've got photos here on the wall. I'll show you. My family back in the 20s were eating. They didn't eat on tables. They sat on the ground. And I got photographs here. They didn't do that stuff. One of my cousins, she's older than me, when we were little, she was always so mad because some of these old folks would use their hands to eat on everything. And she went to a private school,
Yeah.
Julia, and she was like, "Oh, our people are so crude," and like she was prim and proper, but we've been doing that thousands of years now. I use a fork and knife and all that, but you understand that I love air conditioning, especially in this heat, and I like easy water and electricity, but as the old folks, the old Indians used to tell me, why do you want to be like these old, like we were, and our parents and grandparents? We didn't have air conditioning. We didn't have penicillin. We didn't have this. I mean, what are you doing? And I said, well, I guess it just sounds cool to, be an Indian. So we are Indians, and I'm telling you, it's a hard world. So that's that. You got to take that view too.
Yeah.
So I go to count your blessings. I guess that's the moral of the story.
Yeah. I'm so curious on so many levels with how you navigate that.
If the situation is upon you, like you're in a stream, you want to get in the water and watch a small river, and you see a stream within a stream. Like over here, you can go over here. Can usually do. That's where the fish are. Run a little different. You can feel the difference in the pressure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go, well, okay, I don't want to get over there. I'll be swept away. Same thing. You just go ahead and go, well, I can't get over here. I need some 300-pound guys to come in here and, do their thing. That's what I do. I just try to figure out what the hell's going on here. I always ask my staff, where are we today? I don't know. But if they tell me where we are and they're real patient with me, they say, well, we're over here, Chief, and we need to be over there. And they know how I think about chasing futility is something I will not tolerate.
Yeah.
If we're making progress, no matter how difficult it is, reinforce that, get behind it, move forward. But I will cut bait and leave and heartbeat if it's not going anywhere.
Is there something that's changed for you? Where are you guys with the current administration at a federal level?
Well, we have to rely on ourselves first. And I was talking to some of my staff, another group this morning. I can't believe it's only been about 12 weeks since President Trump was elected. We have really good relations with our legislators here, federal legislators, our 2 senators and our members of Congress.
Are they Republicans?
Yes. We have really good relationships with some of the people within the federal government. One of them called me this morning and said, I'm going to need to review my ethics letter regarding Osage, because he was one of our attorneys for 11 years. So we'll sit down and work that out. He's high up in Department of Interior, selected to be there. So we have people we know, but in the meantime, you can't just rely on that, because they can come in and do what they want. The defense is self-sufficiency, economic self-sufficiency, and when we say, and the federal government, everybody agrees on political self-determination, then what you have to do is get behind that, and you got to mean it, and say we will defend it. And and what are you talking about now? We're talking about our way of life, and we're talking about territory.
Yeah.
Because in order to do any of this sovereignty, external and internal, you got to have your territory that you're talking about. This is us as a people. This is our language. We still have it. We're rebuilding it, and this is our territory. So even though we walk into the contradiction of in trust for the Osage, you've got to understand what that means in trust. There's an obligation of the United States to recognize certain treaties, certain other actions, but you don't want to rely on that, because then if you get in front of the judges may say, well, that used to be the rule. So you can't take anything for granted. The only defense is self-sufficiency. So, I mean, that is it. Otherwise, people should not be surprised if the federal government comes in and says, well, we're going to do what we did in Alaska. We're going to create corporations, tribal corporations. And you can have your tribal entities as governments, but all your resources are being transferred to corporate entities. That's one idea that's still circulating in Washington, D.C. to, as they say, get out of the Indian business. Where's the exit ramp? That's because here's the lawyer. Under the law and Supreme Court of the United States decisions, there is a lot of unilateral authority from the United States Congress, the President, called plenary power. It's like a one-way street almost, to unilaterally modify the treaties and other arrangements, because it's in the national interest of the United States. And I've watched that since I was a young lawyer. I saw this happen in court many decades ago in the Japanese internment cases. I don't know if you knew this, but American citizens that were of Japanese descent were placed in camps.
Yeah, Australia too.
Yeah, their properties was confiscated. Well, how are they going to be compensated? Well, you'll look at all that and say, well, it wasn't wrong. It was in the national interest at the time. And so when you dig into that line of thinking, and you look in and reasoning and action, and you look at other activities of the Native Americans and what we have, you can see, or I can see at least, if it's determined to be in the national interest, anything is possible. So my advice is to be ready, and we've got to expand our. So I said our butcher house, our harvest land. Look at these as pilot projects. Let's become self-sufficient. Otherwise, we are internally weak in our sovereignty. We're internally weak, which makes us weak when we try to expand or protect ourselves externally. That's how I see it. And that's how I act.
Yeah.
We are really at risk right now. The world is changing, and we could be collateral damage, not even targeted as being part of the thing. And it's just like my child care director said, Secretary of Child Care and all that. She says, we got this $10 million. We're trying to consolidate, make it more flexible, but we can't really say it's going to be there in 3 or 4 months because we don't know what Washington, D.C. is going to do. And it's not just on us, it's just the larger program. It's like our broadband. If it's cut at a national level, we would be like our solar power project was cut. It wasn't directed at us. It was directed nationwide at a funding a program, cutting all these renewable energy programs. We had a solar power project down in Hominy near where the butcher house is, and it was caught up in that, and they clawed back. They said they called it clawed back the money. It already had been appropriated by the United States Congress. It's there. It was sitting along with other governments, not just tribal, but other governments, in accounts. I think it was Citibank. I'm not sure which bank it was, but it was already there, and we were just one of many. And when they cut that out, clawed it back. End of solar project. End of contracts. End of aspirations of using that solar power. Just done. That happened a couple months ago. So we have like the other projects that we got to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
If it happens and they claw it back, there's not a whole lot you can do.
Yeah.
So what you got to do is look for alternatives, and the only alternative that makes sense to me is self-sufficiency. But damn, that's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have an answer. I just try to keep moving forward.
Yeah. Is it important in that context to, I know there's an Osage News outlet, to have your own media, your own means of stories?
If it was truly not biased, that would be great. But human biases are natural, and it expresses itself in our media because that's just the way it is. And I just don't see how we can fund regularly a larger Osage News that had more staff and more ability to not go to the story that will get people to look at stuff.
Yeah, the clickbait.
Yeah, the quick look. It needs, and I think they're better than they used to be. But we also need alternative media besides just one. We got.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Otherwise, it's not because they're part of the government. In fact, we have separated them from the government, and we fund them, no strings attached. But you've got to be aware, and I know some of them are, that the money comes from our legislature, 12 members, and that is not always a unified group. And my view of some of them and some of theirs view of me are not always in a rose garden.
Yeah.
So, so we need alternative methods of messaging, which is where our people, again, the younger people, are coming together and creating keyboards on our iPhones and computers in our language.
Really?
And starting to communicate with each other more and more in our language. And let's see, I can show you.
Yeah.
They have these. See, how do you do that?
No, you really tweaked the curiosity of the young fella.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Check
next
this out. Let's see. I go maybe here. Darn it. There. Here. Oh, there it is. You see that little world thing? That little.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah.
Okay. See these English words?
Yeah.
Watch this. Oh, okay. That was great.
Yeah. Osage keyboard. Yeah. Wow.
See that?
Wow, what do you know?
That's what I used to get the Spanish keyboard on the app.
As well.
Ah.
Now you can do it with Osage.
So here's our language. So I've seen some 16-year-olds texting each other from different communities. See, isn't that great? So that's the solution, really,
Yeah.
is go ahead and have us communicate with each other this way
Yeah.
and use technology.
Yeah.
And that way, you don't have to worry about underfunding the Osage News. We need to keep it funded, but we got to have alternatives, and this is what I'm talking about. I don't mean alternative newspapers. I
Yeah.
mean alternative methods of communication.
Right with you.
There it is. That's pretty cool.
I can see an Osage podcast already.
Well, they've got some.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so good.
I,
Guys, I'm so sorry to interrupt. So
Yeah.
we should kind of wrap it up.
All right.
wanna see Jan?
Yeah, so we can get
I
to
figured-
Jan. She just
Oh, okay, good point.
ask Craig Walker, who's her right hand down there, about the well plugging. I thought about this morning. I almost called you about it, but I figured I'd see you. The well plugging project. We have tens of thousands of abandoned wells, and many of them are orphaned, which means no one knows who owns them because they're all 1920s and so forth. Craig is the administrator under Jan of another federal grant to plug these orphan wells, which are leaking, but the amount of we have a lot of hope that this will continue. I think you'll find that interesting, that we are doing the well plugging, even though we're not getting hardly any money from oil production or gas production. That's mostly gone.
Really?
Yeah, so what they've left us is tens of thousands of abandoned wells. And so when we bought that 43,000-acre ranch and put it into trust, one of the delays to put it in trust is the federal government said, well, we can't take it in trust. It's going to be under our name, United States of America, in trust. That means environmental laws can come on to us and force us to clean up. And my response was, well, it happened under your watch during the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. You allowed all this to happen, and now we want to put it in federal trust to get out of the state of Oklahoma's reach. You've got to work with us on this. So
Yeah. It was somehow acceptable then. And
well, yeah, right. So now actually we have some of that reaction in a positive way, allowing us to clean up some of this huge environmental damage that's all through. This is 1.5 million acres. About half of that has, well, they can tell you better about how much damage and what they're doing. But they are plugging tens of thousands of wells, but sometimes one of these wells could cost over $100,000. I mean, that's the worst case scenario. But the bonds that were posted under the leases through almost to now was $5,000. If you want to do an oil and gas lease, you go, okay, I'll post a bond according to federal regulations, $5,000. If I pull out, my bond will pay for the cleanup.
Yeah.
That normally doesn't cover it. But just go ahead and ask Jan about it, if Craig's not there, about the well plugging program. Because that, again, it shows that crazy contradiction of relations between the federal government and the tribes and industry.
Yeah.
It's just nuts. It's really fascinating. Keeps it interesting.
I'm wondering, Nicole, do we have time? I'm wondering, Chief, you mentioned the photos
Oh, in the hallway?
of your...
Yeah.
Do we have time to, as a way of closing, to go
Let's
through
come on
some
out
of
and
those?
take a look.
Yeah.
Just right down the hall.
Yeah.
It's right here. So, well, this is interesting. Look at this culture clash. This is my great uncle Freddie Lookout Jr. and his wife. Look at these guys. See this culture clash? They didn't speak a word in English. I guarantee you, they're dressing like that. And there's this one of the Osages had all that money.
Yeah.
During the 1920s.
Wow, look at that.
But here's the family. These are all in my drawer, and one of our employees made copies, so I just donated them to look at that. See, that's family lunch.
And when are we talking? There.
1920s.
1920s as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's another one.
I wonder.
Late 1920s, yeah.
I wonder how much else do you carry that sense of your ancestors in what you do, and how has it shaped what you do?
Oh, no. It's the language carries the culture. And so our young people or the success, they'll see me in the grocery store and talk to me in Osage, and I'll say, yeah, sure. And I'm kind of like, God, what did he say? But the fact is, one thing we've learned as we we're rebuilding our language, is the culture is embedded in it. So you see certain words and stuff, and we're all familiar enough because that generation's my grandparents' generation. So we heard it, and we knew some of the words, and we know some of the words. But as we get further and further into it, we have a lot of resources, a lot of recordings. We have a lot of written. It was written in like a Greek kind of a lettering, but depends on how they recorded it. We're very fortunate to have a good record.
Good.
Yeah.
I wonder, just to close, Chief, how you keep the positivity and the humour that you do in the face of the challenges.
Oh, I see people like Krista here, and she's positive. Yeah. I'm not kidding you. That's how do you keep positive around here with all the roadblocks and up and down and everything else? You just got. What do you think, Krista? This is Krista Fulkerson.
Hi, Krista. I'm Anthony.
Hi, Anthony.
Yeah, I'm really genuinely curious. Like, if you're the source of positivity for this man, where do you source
I don't know
it?
where you get that. I'm Mr. Skeptic. Go ahead. She knows.
I think that you come in every day and meet everybody with great intentions, and you think positively, and you have a good work-life balance. And I think that it's very important to be able to go into a room and tell yourself that everyone is a big fan of yours, no matter what, and that's how you get through the day.
Well, I couldn't get away with that. Everybody does it their own way. Because when I walk into a room, I know some of these people are not a big fan of mine.
Well, you know it, and
Yeah.
that's why I tell everyone, you know it. I mean, you're human, and you know
She's
things.
a lot more positive than me. She's younger. She's the future. Go get them.
I'm
But even
going
when
to
you
do
know
it.
it, Krista,
Oh, yeah.
you just hold that for yourself, that demeanour.
Because basically the decisions you make during the day are best for the nation, and you know it. And as long as I can get up in the morning, brush my teeth, and know I've done the best I can, and my intentions are always great and best for everyone, that's all you can do.
God, see? That's it. That's the magic.
Thank you.
Well,
Good to
have a
meet
good
you.
day. Have a positive day.
All right.
It's been a great
Sure.
privilege.
Sure. Have
Thanks
fun.
for speaking
Have
with
fun.
me. Yeah.
So appreciate
Give
it.
it a hug. That was good.
Yeah. I know you're so busy, so.
Yeah.
Well,
We appreciate
well,
it.
everybody's hiding out because they wouldn't want me to come see them again. Nice
Shut the
meeting you.
door. There's the chief.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I really appreciate the time.
Sure,
Thanks
man,
a lot.
sure,
It means
sure.
a great deal.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad you're doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Likewise.
That's really cool. Yeah. So you met Jason's on. He's
Yeah.
Chief of Staff.
Been to Australia, he tells us.
Yeah, he was in the Navy.
Yeah.
And then the other guy in there is his deputy. He's was in the Marine Corps. I was not in the service. But it's good to have these, there he is, these military guys.
G'day. AJ. Nice to meet
That,
you.
they expect, like Jason was on an aircraft carrier. He expects the aircraft to land when they're supposed to, safely.
Yes. That's right. I'd like to expect that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
But if you want somebody to be jump out of a tree and defend you, you need a Marine.
It's good to have all bases covered.
Yeah, I got some others too. So yeah.
But hey, given we got a moment while Nicole's not here, you mentioned Cream before, so you're clearly a rock and roll fan.
I love music.
Great, because I close every podcast talking about music. What's been your favourite song or favourite album or anything over the years that has jumped out?
Wow. What was my favorite?
Perhaps as a kid, even a formative time.
The formative time. Gosh, I don't know. Jimi Hendrix was big on what changed what I was listening to was Jimi Hendrix.
Really,
Yeah, I mean, I was young and I went, wow.
we visited a place near Nashville, Jefferson Street, where he lived for a while, and he credits his playing to what he learned in that scene at the time?
Well, you're talking about the formative years. That's what, for me, it was pretty away. 'Cause before that, I was listening to Jan and Dean and the Beach Boys. And,
Cool too.
And before that, I was listening to Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels. Good golly, Miss Molly.
Yes.
And then about the same time, I had the 45 of Nancy Sinatra. These boots are made for walking. Well, I went from there, the Beach Boys, to Jimi Hendrix, and that was quite a leap. And the Cream.
Yeah.
And Blind Faith, and just the
Outstanding.
whole thing.
It's a roll call.
Yeah,
I'm glad I asked.
All right.
Thanks again.
All right.
That was Chief Standing Bear of the Osage Nation and some of the team. Some pics and links on the website and more for paid subscribers soon, with great thanks for making all this possible. Join us, get additional stuff and help keep the show going by heading to the website or the show notes and following the prompts. Thank you. Next up, we meet with Dr. Jan Heyman, the nation's Secretary of Natural Resources, for another fascinating conversation about what all this means on the ground through her lens and her musical hand too. The music you're hearing now is Regeneration by Amelia Barden. My name's Anthony James. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Jason.
You're welcome. Of
Real
course.
pleasure.
Pleasure meeting
Real
you.
You
pleasure.
ever listen
Yeah.
to Mitch Ryder of the Detroit Wheels?
No, I'm more of I grew up on Kiss and Ted Nugent and Foreigner.
Yeah, I'm your era.
And then high school, I was glam hair band.
Yes.
Poison, Warrant, Motley Crue.
That's what I was doing. That's why I learned to play drums to this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
Def
then
Leppard.
I grew up into grunge of the 90s.
Yeah,
So Pearl
that's
Jam
where it
and
stopped me.
Nirvana.
I got
Oh,
mad
yeah.
because they killed glam bands.
Yeah.
Grunge did. So
100%.
I don't like grunge bands. I'm still mad.
I saw
I
I saw David Grohl in Tulsa. Remember when he had a band called Queens of the Stone Age?
Yeah, they were good.
Yeah, that was about as close to stardom that I saw.
Yeah.
That was really